You ready? Episode 80. This is the big 80. This will be the 80th podcast. We're pushing on 100, Mom. We're getting there.
Yes, I know.
I don't know when. Hopefully by the end. I don't know what we're gonna do for the 100th, but yeah, I've been locking down the fort down here.
20 more, Chris.
20 more. So yeah, 20 more weeks. I did the quick math. Good start to the podcast. Again, I'm tired.
Got the calculator out.
Yeah, I've been moving so much furniture today. I'm exhausted. I moved so much. Luckily, my aunt and my cousin were able to help, but you should see Grandma doing the Swiffer duster. She was Swiffer and everything.
Oh, you brought her over too?
Yeah.
Got her into it.
Yeah, they bring her, which is fine, of course. But yeah, she was helping. But she finally sat in that couch. You know, the couch that she has in the living room.
The chair?
Yeah, the chair. And she fell asleep within 5 seconds. I'm not even kidding. 5 seconds. She was like, so.
It's all that Swifter.
All that
sweeping.
Yeah, exactly. So.
All right, there's a secret. Just have her Swift when she comes. She can take a nice nap.
Yeah, basically. So, yeah. And then besides that, yeah, that's really been my whole day. I won't lie to you, Mom. I cheated a little on the diet today because we were kind of in a rush. I went with the healthier option of Taco Bell just because we were on the move.
Where'd you go with this?
We went to Taco Bell because we were just trying to go. I had to, Ma. I couldn't control myself. But I've been so good for the last 2 weeks. I was like, I could treat myself once. But yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything's pretty much status quo down here.
Let me just tell you, that is a fallacy. You cannot treat yourself because you just wind up putting on all the weight that you spent 2 weeks taking.
Yeah. So I'm scared to get another steroid. I have to see what I weigh tomorrow, but again, I've been fluctuating about a pound a day, so I have to figure out how to stop doing that. But yeah.
Don't go to Taco Bell.
Mom, it was once in like 2 weeks. But okay, Mom, you ready to start it off tonight? These were some good articles when I read these.
You like the articles?
Yeah. And then
my handwriting's people are doing them in the car on the way up. Speaking of cars, the Germany 20-second rule. Now my pet peeve.
What a transition that Mom just did there. Holy. Yes. So this is funny because you and I just talked about this. Hold on. So remember, this is when we were driving down here, I talked about this. So could Germany's 20-second rule be the solution to global traffic flow issues? Now, before we even read this article, I want to premise this by when we were driving down here to North Carolina together on the 8-hour drive, I said to you, what did I say? I said, why do we even have speed limits in the left lane? Everyone should be able to go at the speed that they want to go. Because there's no, the left lane is the passing lane, right? If you can get 120 on that and everyone's going 120, perfect. You're not going to have any more accidents unless you have someone that can't get to 120 going to the left. But go ahead. You continue. I agree with Germany. I think I'm German now. So go ahead. You tell me. I just want to get water.
Well, Germany's a little different than we are in the sense that, if somebody's sitting in the left lane and the right lane is open, we can pass them on the right. You're really not supposed to, in theory, but we won't get a ticket for it. By right, you're always supposed to keep right except when passing. So, my pet peeve, as Christopher well knows, is people who sit in the left lane for no good reason. They're not passing anybody. There's nobody in the right. They're not supposed to be in that lane.
Right.
Worse still are those people that sit in the left lane and they don't go fast enough and they wind up blocking people behind them, forcing you to pass them on the right. Now in Germany, that's illegal. They don't allow you to pass on the right.
Right.
You're technically not supposed to do it here in America, but it's in our rules, but it's not. You're not going to necessarily get a ticket for them. For them, it's like a €93 ticket or $93 ticket and a pet 1 point on your insurance. So it's a big deal. So they've decided to overcome this as a 20-second rule, meaning if it's feasible to stay in the right lane for over 20 seconds, you're supposed to move into it. So it's basically what we're saying. Keep right unless you're passing. And if you're not passing somebody for 20 seconds, if you count 20 and you haven't passed anybody, you got to get over to the right lane.
That is a lot of time to pass. See, I don't even think it should be a passing lane. I would call it an express lane. You should be like the Autobahn. You should just be able to just send it as fast as you want down there. when everyone's going high speed, you're gonna have more of a gap for people to get in. So you don't have to worry about someone crushing you from behind, right? So that's why I'm
Right, but
saying,
the point is, if somebody's doing 100 miles per hour
Mhm.
and you want to do 110, they have to move over to the right lane. So even though you're both going incredibly fast, the point of the left, which obviously we're not doing those speed limits here in this
it's just
country,
some
but
bullshit.
the point of the left lane, whether it's a 2-lane, 3-lane, 4-lane highway, is to pass. It's not to sit in it. I have literally seen people get on a highway in the right lane, they put their blinker on, they go all the way across to the left, and there's nobody else on the road.
Yeah. See, I don't know if I would say I'm one of those, but I'm definitely someone that, of course, I manage speed limits. But yeah, if someone's going faster than me and I'm in the left lane, I move over and then I get right back in the left lane and I go. Right? Yeah, I know I'm not supposed to sit in the left lane, but if I'm keeping up with the speed, I don't think it should matter. I'm just saying, change the law. When I'm dictator, I mean president someday.
Well, there's nothing necessarily wrong with that. It's not what you're supposed to do, but if you could go whatever speed you want to in the middle lane, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, I
I
guess.
mean, that's
Yeah.
what I'm saying. And if you're in a 3-lane road, I can see somebody going into the middle lane. I don't have a problem with that. As long as the left is still clear for those of us who want to go faster.
Right.
And it leaves the right lane open for people getting on and off the highway when you're on a 3-lane highway. I get that. But I just can't tell you how many traffic issues and problems in this country alone would be solved if police went around and scared the crap out of people sitting in the left lane going the speed limit, okay, and not moving over. And worse, when they line up with cars next to them in the right, now nobody can get past.
Yeah.
It's like a total bottleneck. I think that's why we have so many issues on our highway. And by the way, it's very dangerous because now you're forcing people to pass you on the right, which technically, you're not at fault, but it causes a lot more problems if you're
Right.
weaving in and out between cars, right?
Yeah. Well,
So,
I think that
and
I as bad as highways are, like it's more so the city. Like I'm curious who's going to be the one that solves city traffic. City traffic is, I think, like when we talk about the 401 or the anything that goes from like New York City traffic, getting out of the city, not even the traffic that goes from like where we are in New Jersey to the city. Yeah, that's bad traffic, but just getting out of the city or getting into the city, that's a whole different animal.
mhm.
That's what needs to be fixed, I think. Now, New York City is a little different because it's technically an island. It is an island, but right, there's only really 4 ways or 3 ways into New York City. We know that that's a bad idea, correct? Like, how have we not solved that one?
Well, as bad as New York is, and I haven't driven in it, but LA traffic I think is even
Way
worse.
worse.
And
Yeah,
they're
that's
not
another
even an
one.
island.
It's a
Take
405, right?
hours to go a mile.
I know,
Right.
which is
I mean,
that's insanity. Yeah, I
and they
go when
don't
I'm
have,
driving.
from what I've always seen, they have huge highways, 5 and 6 lanes, which
Yeah,
makes you wonder, and but they do have, probably more people. It's a bigger state, but still, you know, a lot of the problems with city is you have a lot of people going into a small area and taking their cars.
right.
So how do you stop it? Well, you do things like raise the price to get in.
Yeah,
I think it's probably like over $10 a day to go into the city to work. I think it's closer to like $20 a day between tolls, let alone once you finally park your car, which is supposed to be a disincentive, to make you not an incentive to not take your car in and to use mass transit.
yeah,
But as you know from Mr. Grutta's podcast, he's been riding the trains for years. They can't manage to get the frickin' trains to
yeah.
work
Half the time they're
on a
not
regular
running.
basis.
Yeah, yeah,
Right. So without the proper infrastructure, if you don't maintain, if you don't put money into it, people want to drive, or it's no worse than driving, and vice versa. They'd rather sit in their own car for an hour, which is air conditioned and whatnot, waiting to get in, versus sitting on a train for an hour, which is stinking hot and everyone's coughing on you.
yeah. I don't know the answer. I think Elon's boring company was supposed to be the answer, right? That was like the high speed underground that would get you from San Francisco to LA in like under 10 minutes or something like that. Like, which is insanity. But I
Right.
don't know if we'll get to that point anytime soon. I don't know what the story is with the Boring Company.
I want to say since we moved to New Jersey, they were supposed to just put in a regular rail that went from Hunterdon County into Manhattan. If you think about it, we don't have a rail that goes that way. You have
Yeah,
to go. It's convoluted. So just so people understand, 30 years later, they can't manage to push for, get the funding for, do blah, 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 blah. Because you have so many
Yeah.
people who live in New Jersey to go into the city.
This just always reminds me of, like, you know, when they give those plans, like this bridge will be done by 2025. I always think about when I went to Scranton, right? They started this bridge when I was a freshman. They said it's going to be done in under a year. I think it wasn't until 2 years after I graduated, they started the project, right? Like, it's ridiculous. These, I don't know who to blame for that. Yeah.
Well, Scranton was always loaded with the workers right around. Well, just remember though, where your university was, that was a really old city with very outdated infrastructure. The highway was old. The connections were old.
Well, everything was built under the mines. Remember, everything was built. Scranton was known for coal mining. It was like
2 lanes.
Yeah. So because everything was built for coal mining, they had to basically survey the land to figure out, like, hey, can we put buildings on these spots, or are they going to sink in these giant caves? So I remember when they were building certain buildings that they had to check for, like, sinkholes. Remember, they put up that brand new sophomore building and then it started sinking.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I think they rebuilt it later.
Well, it's a very urban area, and in the height of that city, people didn't drive. You know, they didn't have cars, so you didn't need a 4-lane, 3-lane highway. Then you put a university in, and now you've got people coming from all over the country by car, you know, to get to the school. Then you also had the areas around it get built up, and so all these places, they never, like, you know, from us in New Jersey, we have this ridiculous roundabout, this circle.
Yeah, which is fun. Everyone's like, I say that to people here in New Bern, they're like, what the hell's a roundabout? But we actually, you know, right above me is a circle, and it's like a little mini circle. But yeah, so Somerville Circle in New Jersey is like, there's like 3 accidents there a week. It's insane.
If not more, but it was never built. When it was originally developed, there weren't that many people out here. There weren't that many people driving.
Right.
And, you know, then we got very condensed, a lot of congestion, and all of a sudden, you know, you got so many cars, and then you got a lot of poor drivers who don't move to the middle lane and sit in the left lane.
Yeah, well, the circle's a little weird. So for people who aren't from New Jersey, a circle is basically, usually there's a bridge over it, but I'm just taking Somerville Circle as a example.
It has a bridge over it.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of.
Circle does have a bridge. It connects.
Yeah, I'm talking, but there's other ones. Yeah. Well, essentially what it is, guys, it's a 3-lane circle, right? And it has about 6 inlets going in. Picture like you know, almost like a drain in a shower, or when you take a bath and it kind of does a spiral down. That's basically what it is. It's basically just a giant hazard for cars. And they're like, hey, just send your car right in. I'll try and find a Google image of it. But yeah, Somerville Circle, it's amazing how there's not more accidents. So you really have to know how to drive.
All 3 of you used to go out of your way so you wouldn't have to do the circle.
Yeah. Well, my favorite was
in the circle.
My favorite was Kenny every time. So when you get up to the circle, guys, I believe it's 2 lanes at the Guitar Center, right? There's the Guitar Center there. I forget if it's 2 or 3, but Kenny would always get on the right side, and he would say to the car next to him, he's like, "Be my shield," as he goes. So when we were going to soccer practice, he'd be like, "Be thy shield," as he steps on the gas. But yeah, I mean, the thought process of any Jersey circle is a nightmare. Yeah. Also, we're the only ones that have jug handles.
Jersey never used to be. Oh, jug handles. Yeah, we're big into that here in New Jersey.
Yeah, I think they're in other places, but yeah, jug handles. I kind of like jug handles. So jug handles, for those of you that don't know, it's like a little outlet to avoid a U-turn. So instead of doing a U-turn, is basically a offset of a road to a stoplight, so you can make almost like a wide U. Let me tell you, Mom, I did
a left turn.
I did my first U-turn the other day in New Bern, North Carolina, because it's legal. I felt like I was breaking the law.
I know, you feel naughty.
Yeah.
Oh.
I was like, am I getting T-boned here? Am I about to get sideswiped?
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting. But yes, I agree with
your
Camry. Yeah. But yeah, so I do agree with Germany. traffic laws need to change because now cars are going faster, acceleration times are going faster, and I just think it's about time for an infrastructural change when it comes to highways. I don't know if you agree.
Well, I think the difference is Germany will most likely enforce it. We have plenty of rules here, one of which is you have to keep to the right. Technically, you could give every person who sits their ass in that left lane a ticket. If they're not passing somebody on the right, that's you're breaking a law.
Right.
So you could get a ticket. I could, if I was a cop, I'd be handing out tickets all day for people who just sit in that
Absolutely.
lane and don't pass. But we don't enforce it that much, right? And or at least I don't see it enforced. I would love to see it enforced, but in Germany, it sounds like they take it pretty seriously, especially when you can't pass on the right.
Right.
So what choice do you have, right?
Yeah. You know what else Germany's known for?
But
Their drugs and their Zyns.
the Zyn pack. Okay.
Social media erupts after Chuck Schumer calls for a Zyns crackdown.
His gripe, which by the way, I find more interesting, the automatic and intense response that this guy got for attempting to even talk about it. All the people who could care less about Zyn are thinking.
Yeah. So hold on, we got to tell our viewers. So turns out we have because I was taking one the other day and someone asked me what it was. So Zyns, I actually take these again, 25 or older. I know they say 21, 25 because that's when your brain's developed. There's a lot of research on these things. Basically, what it is, it's a nicotine packet or a pouch of nicotine, white nicotine, with no carcinogens in it like tobacco or blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of health benefits that we are seeing from these Zyns packs. I do one twice a week, so Wednesdays and Sundays. Now I'm kind of gone down to once a week just because of timing and stuff. But yeah, so there's a lot of benefits. The only reason that they're getting rid of these, they say that it's the teenagers and whatever it's catering to. They're kind of treating it like the vape pens, right? Remember when the Juuls came out and they were like, oh, all these kids are doing these cotton candy flavored vapes. Same thing, but the Zyns are not. There's no real. Let me tell you something. There's no good flavoring to a Zyns. There's stuff that will like make it taste a little better, but it still sucks, you know. But
well, I think one of the main comments a lot of people make is, all right, so you allow drugs to be legal.
Yeah, you allow fentanyl to cross the border.
Fentanyl over the border, but all of a sudden you got an issue with Zyn packs.
Zyn nicotine, okay? Yeah. So
nicotine. So that's what's the most shocking of this to me is with all that's going on in this country and all the issues we have, many of which Mr. Chuck Schumer has endorsed.
Yeah.
He's going to go after, and boy, did he poke the bear with that one.
Yeah.
I haven't heard boo since he said this. I'm thinking maybe he's let this one go. He'd be wise to do that.
Yeah, I mean, there's too many health benefits of it. Like the vaping and stuff, that was just stupid. Like too many kids were getting sick and like actually dying and long-term effects too. But the Zyns, I mean, you can look at any studies that they're doing now. They're seeing a lot of reduction and improvement in Alzheimer's. It's repairing neural pathways. There's just too many benefits to get rid of it. Honestly, I'm surprised they're not going to try and tax the crap out of it, like how they did with the tobacco tax.
Probably do that next, just like they do with drugs.
Yeah,
but, I mean, you can't. It's nonsensical to be. I'm fine with you regulating these types of things for children. I don't think they should be taking certain things that your body's developing. But hey, you know what? Maybe start with the gender mutilation before you go right into things like certain things like why is it okay to do one thing, but it's not okay to do another? They're just not consistent and they're not logical. You can't take it seriously.
The other problem with stuff like this, and we had the same problem with the Juul pens, is the argument that they're catered to kids because of their flavors is kind of a crappy argument, because to me, catered to kids would mean it says there's no like age restriction on it. That to me would be like, oh, that's kind of more catered to kids. But I don't know about you, but I don't mind the flavor of mint at the age of 28, right? So it's kind of hard to make the argument, oh,
well,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to keep cutting you off, but there's a little bit of a lag.
Yeah, because of the internet, I figured.
On a similar situation, but bizarro to what you're saying, I didn't realize this was a thing. My friend had brought this to my attention because she has young nieces. There are all these young girls, and I'm saying 9, 10-year-old girls, who are buying anti-wrinkle cream online. Like, that's the new hot thing to get if you're a young girl.
Huh.
Yeah. And I keep saying, why would a mother, or I would assume a mother or any parent, say, why are you buying, like, why would you waste your money? Because it's not cheap. That stuff's expensive, and it has retinol and all these different things in there for older skin when it starts to lose elasticity. It's probably damaging their skin to some extent. But again, I'm like, how are these kids buying this stuff? How is a 9-year-old shopping on the internet and buying but it's the same situation.
Yeah.
Now, is it harming them like drugs or nicotine or something like that? I don't know. Your skin is an organ and they're putting something on that they don't need. But along the same lines, they're marketing it to kids, or they're okay with kids buying it.
Right.
It's not illegal to do that, but you would think dermatologists would step in and say, it's not a good thing for
Yeah,
a 9-year-old to put retinol on
it's
her skin.
tough to call it. It's tough to say that it's catered to children if there's like an age limit. If it says 18 and up, but kids are buying them, you can't say, oh, it's catered to kids, right? So that's my question. Like, what determines catered for kids? Having good flavors or interesting flavors that are childish, quote unquote. I don't know if that's enough to say that it's necessarily catered to kids. Same with your retinol cream or whatever, right? I don't know why kids are doing that.
There was an issue, I could be wrong with the product, but I believe it was Camel cigarettes.
Oh, yeah.
And they were selling them as a cartoon. Like the Camel was a cartoon. The person buying it looked very, very young, cartoon. And so that would have been years ago. And they were really angry because it was like they were trying to sell these cigarettes to kids. And even that was, back then it was illegal. Still, you had to be, I think, 18 to buy cigarettes. I don't know what it is now. Maybe it's 21. But you could tell that it was a cartoon. It was very something that a child would say. Now, did they say they're selling to kids? No, but they were implying that they were creating that sort of scenario, if you will, with the cartoon and with the youngish looking people in it. Naturally, everybody was up in arms, and you can't do that, and they had to stop doing the commercials because that was their gripe. You're trying to sell this stuff to kids.
Yeah.
Fast forward, what was that, 10, 20 years later? I mean, we're in a whole different universe with what they're pushing on kids. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think you can legally in the United States anymore advertise cigarettes at all. But
yeah, I think that.
I don't think you can do that with I don't think you could do that with any substance technically. Like I haven't seen one for Zyns.
I don't think it's allowed in movies anymore. I think they banned cigarette smoking in movies. I want to say within the last 5 years or so. So I was thinking about that only in America though, because I've watched I watch European and
the Bollywood
Australian
ones,
shows.
Peaky Blinders. Yeah,
I'm trying to think about the last time I saw somebody smoking. I don't watch too many current movies, but if you think about it, you've probably seen more than I have, and I don't think I don't think you're allowed to have it in cinemas anymore.
I was just thinking, it's been a long time since I've seen someone actually smoke, now that I think about it. Like, I don't have any friends that really smoke or anything. I can't tell you the last time I actually saw a cigarette, to be honest. But
well, as I said, I see it in like some of the shows that I stream, but I think also too, if you go into a city, a lot of people smoke in cities. Like everybody in Europe smokes.
For some reason I remember, for some reason I recently remember, like, where we used to live, I remember a lot more smokers, but now that I think about it, I can't tell you the last time I actually saw someone smoked. But
what do you mean, where we used to live? You've always lived in New Jersey.
Well, yeah, I mean, when I say Bedminster, like, I like Bernardsville and all those areas, I feel like I used to see a lot of people smoking outside. Yeah, I don't know. I just realized, like, I haven't seen someone smoke in a long ass time. Or maybe my brain just ignores it. I don't know. But now I see more kids.
How about our neighbors? Our neighbors both
yeah,
smoke.
That's true. I just never seen them do it, So, yeah. All right.
Yeah, there are usually older people. Fortunately, it's not the young people as much. I don't know. But now they have alternatives. Now you have vaping. You've got
the Zyns, yeah.
You've got all this other stuff that kids could do.
Well, the Zyns are interesting because, right, those were designed to stop people from smoking, right? Now they're saying, oh, well, there's actually a lot more benefits for people who don't even smoke. So,
right.
But like I was talking to the guys before about what the average intake of Zyns is, right? I told you I do one twice a week. The average a day is 15 to 20. I was like, what the hell? Yeah. Johnny was asking me before. He's like, do you ever, Johnny was like, Chris, do you ever take two and just shove them up in here? And I'm like,
Oh,
No.
come on.
I'm like, Johnny, no. And he's like, I do sixes. Sixes aren't enough.
No, Johnny,
So,
nobody should do that.
yeah. So that's what I mean. You don't, there's definitely people who can take it to the next level, but it's like, that's not the recommended thing you do. You can't blame the company. That's like taking 20 Advils.
I feel like I should be calling Johnny like once a day just to give him mom stuff. Like yell at him
Yeah.
like a mom.
Yeah, exactly.
Yell.
Johnny, what are you
No,
doing?
no, Johnny,
I
don't
think he
do
was
that.
kidding, but I asked him the other day. I
Yeah.
said, I said, Johnny, with all your sports betting, are you ever up? Like, how much have you made? He goes, I'm probably like up $7,000. He goes, I said, well, that's pretty amazing. Then there's like this long pause, and he goes, no, I'm actually really down. I was like, oh, okay, Johnny. Oh God. All right.
The house always wins.
The
right?
house always wins. All right. Speaking of politics, Daily Center, Kari Lake, the court swamp of DC. This is a big one. I saw this basically in
Yes.
real time. So for those of you that didn't see it this week, get this out of here. I don't like advertisements. I'll try and explain this one, Mom, and then you tell me like how off I am. But basically, Kari Lake, where is she, Mom? What state? What state is she running?
Arizona.
Arizona, thank you. So she's running for governor.
Arizona.
Governor of Arizona, am I correct? Let's see.
She was running for governor. She lost in an election that had a lot of problems, including machines that were shut down, forcing people to put ballots
That's
in
right.
a
That's right.
special box. It was never counted. There was paper that was erroneously ordered that didn't fit the machine.
It's sketchy. It's sketchy no matter how. Like there's enough evidence now to.
Still fighting it.
They're still fighting, right? So this guy named DeWitt has this phone call with her, basically asking her to stop running, and he says,
Well, let me just
Go
also
ahead.
say something. Hold on. Let me just add something else.
"You should."
She has since said that she wants to run for senator.
That's right. There we go.
Okay.
Thank you. I should have
And
just let
that's
you
important
explain it.
to
I don't know why I tried. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. It's
So,
fine. Go ahead.
so to my understanding, right? So this guy calls her, and he didn't realize it, but Kari Lake records the audio for this cell phone call, right? And he basically says to her, "How much money do you want to keep running? Because there are some very powerful people who don't want to see you win." And I mean, what bothers me about this whole story, Mom, is everyone's talking about like, oh, how could he do this? Blah, blah, blah. My question is, who are these powerful people? Who are these powerful people that we're talking about? And why are we not bringing them up? Right? It's the
Right.
one thing no one's talked about. I don't care about the money and what he said. He's just what sounds like a very non-powerful person compared to these other people that apparently he's talking about. So it's like, hey, can we get some information on these people, please? So
Well, yeah, and that's really the crux of it. So the guy's name is Jeff DeWitt. He is the the head of the Arizona Republican Party. So the request is made to him to reach out to her, get her to stop. What will it take for you to go away for a couple years? Why a couple years? But apparently that was the gist of the conversation. And according to her, there is no amount. She says,
Yeah.
you can't buy me off of this. Okay. And I think she was saying that she and her family, who was also listening to the call, were totally shocked that this was even happening. But the real question is that everybody's asking is he's a nobody. You know, he's just the messenger. Okay. So he's getting a lot of attention out of it. But the real question and the real scandal here is that the East Coast, they say, the East Coast Republicans, or the people in the East is what they're referred to, are the ones that want him out. Well, who would that be? Those are your people that are powerful Republican people in Washington, D.C., the
Right.
heads of the party, like your Mitch McConnells and your the John Thunes of the world, you know, the old school, as we call them, rhinos now. They've been around forever, and their ties to the Republican conservative movement are dubious at best. So Kari Lake is a new type of candidate. She's a Trump supporter, and they don't like her. They don't want her. The Republican Party don't want somebody like that because she's not representing the, get along, do what you're told type of mentality.
Right.
And whether you like her or not, nobody's supposed to do that. So he's trying to turn the tables and saying, well, now she's blackmailing me. She recorded this, and now she's trying to, but meanwhile, he's the one who resigned. So
Yeah.
it's like,
He knew he was screwed,
ridiculous.
which is why he had to resign. But like, it's just kind of wild how no one's bringing up the fact that this guy goes, there's some very powerful people that want you out of this race. And no one's talking about, hey, who,
Yeah.
no one's even asked the question, hey, who are the powerful people he's talking about? Like, can we get some names?
Well,
What
no,
do
no,
we?
no. I disagree. As a matter of fact, everybody's asking that question.
Oh,
It's
really?
not
Okay.
about this guy. We all know he's just the messenger. That's what the scandal is. I mean, this stuff goes on all the time, Chris, for people
Yeah.
who run for office in both parties. They don't like somebody, they want him out, and they make it very clear you got to get out. It would not surprise me. They threaten their children. They
Oh,
threaten their
yeah.
spouses.
Oh,
I
I'm
mean, it's
sure.
an ugly, ugly world of politics, and you got to be, you got to be a particular type of person and have a family that's willing to go through that, right?
Well, the worst.
Having said that,
Oh,
if they don't like you, being collectively, they'll make your life a living hell. And at a minimum, they offered her money.
yeah.
If this didn't come out, who knows what would have been next?
Yeah. But what's the wild part of this to me is when he's just like, I didn't know she was recording. Like, thank God she was recording, right? It's kind of, it's weird how that one works, right? So, but
I don't know how people don't record everything anymore.
Yeah, I
you
know.
have to record. It's sad, but you have to.
Well,
Because you got to deal with editing anyhow.
well, you know why, Mom? Because nowadays, using the AI stuff, you can fake like an audio or something, right? You can fake like a person's voice and say, oh, I didn't say that. It was all audio. Speaking of AI and audio, unbelievable transition, by the way.
Yep.
Did you see this one? X is being flooded with graphic Taylor Swift AI fakes. Did you see this?
I did see that. Yes.
Yeah, so I
Yes.
actually saw it trending on Twitter. And let me tell you, we are definitely at the point, Mom, where you cannot tell what's real and what's fake. You can tell based on what was going on in the background that it wasn't real. But like, if there were no, again, I saw the pictures because it was literally on the front page of Twitter. It's basically pornographic pictures of Taylor Swift in the crowd of Kansas City teams. So you know it's not real. But Mom, it was so good that if there wasn't people around there, you can easily make it so that you couldn't tell the difference, right? We're actually at that point now where AI can face swap and really screw things up, which we thought was going to take maybe a year or two. Turns
There
out it
was
took
a
a month.
school in high school. I want to say Westfield High School, where a bunch of kids did that. They took the faces of girls in the class and put them on naked people and posted it. This was
Jeez.
like, I want to say a month ago,
Yeah.
and long before this happened. And what's interesting is there's an old actress. Her name is Justine Bateman, Jason Bateman's sister. Okay,
Yeah.
if you know him from movies, he's very, very famous in movies. She was talking about this when they had the Screen Actors Guild strike and all that, and they settled it and blah, blah, blah. She was adamant that no, it's not a good deal because they don't address AI. And there's nothing stopping these cinemas and whatnot using AI to generate actors and actresses and not needing actors and actresses anymore.
Right.
And that's a real threat, let alone now on social media when you have this going on. And it was only a matter of time before this was going to happen, where they're putting people's heads on other people's bodies, and and you could seriously blackmail people with that.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, so Taylor, I think I just saw today there was an article of her taking action. She's going to try and take legal action, but it's like, who do you sue?
She's pissed if you use her music. Can you imagine what
Can
she's
you
gonna
imagine? Yeah.
do now?
Yeah. But it's like, you're talking about images and likeness because we're about to get, I think the more and more this happens, we're going to get to a serious gray line where we won't know what to do because we don't know how to rule for that. She's a public figure, so you should be able to use her likeness for pictures and stuff as long as it's not owned. Right. There's no way she can own every single picture on the internet of her. So I am in agreement. You can't let this run rampant, right?
No.
So what do you do? Now we're in a stalemate in the sense of, well, it's legal to do because you could take pictures of people, but what do we do with this other half of this of, hey, now you can start changing people's likeness, right? And using their likeness. So
Well, especially in suggestive or um, pornographic, and even illegal.
yeah,
Imagine if they started putting them with children or whatnot, and posting it that way.
yeah.
And I saw an interesting article. I don't necessarily agree with it about for all these pedophiles out there and pornographic these nut jobs and these dark webs. Is it wrong to take an AI child and use it in
We were
pornography?
just talking about that.
Not a
So
real person.
yeah, there. Oh, we're going down a weird rabbit hole here, but someone made up the
Yeah.
argument. I don't remember what it was, but have you seen these sex dolls, Mother? The realistic ones now. Honestly, it's probably best that you don't. But they've gotten
Realistic
so
what? I didn't hear what you said. Realistic what?
sex dolls.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So some they look like real people now. They really do.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the argument was, how would we feel if you made it sounds so stupid to say, but children version of those for pedophiles.
Yeah, I know,
And
yeah.
and it's a crazy argument when you go, "Oh my god, that's so stupid." But then you're like, "Man, could that work?" Or VR is another one. I don't know. I don't know what the answer to that one is, and of course, I would never defend pedophiles, but it's like, is there something we can do with this? Right?
Yeah, I just think it's like, you're feeding into something that is a crime and
Yeah.
and is wrong. It's
But
morally
but
and
are you
ethically
putting
wrong.
an end to it as well? Like that's where you get into that. You're like, man, is it worth testing to see if it does fix the problem? Or are you just
It's not
feeding into it?
a problem. No, it's not gonna fix the problem
I agree.
because when somebody has an addiction of that type or something that drives them, good or bad, frankly, they always want the next, the better, the this, the that. So, you give them a dollar, whatever. Okay, that's fine, but the ultimate is to get the real thing. So you're not curbing this
The
negative
problem.
behavior.
Right.
You're actually encouraging it and making it trying to normalize it, I guess would be the right term, or make it a consistent thing. Why do you think it's going to get better? Now, these nut jobs would argue that, oh, there's nothing wrong with it. Well, we can go down that road there's a lot wrong with it. We know there's a lot wrong with it. Having said that, to create, it's like creating a drug that's not really a drug. You get the same high, but you don't have okay, but at some point the body will get used to it and they're going to want the real thing.
Right. Yeah.
So
Again,
I
I don't
don't
know
think
what the
that's
answer to that one is. Yeah. It was an interesting argument, but I agree with you. I don't think it would ever work, but we are getting to the point where these AIs are just getting too nutty. Like I mean, you are literally changing people's likenesses. But one thing that our friend Cal does to me all the time, whenever like he and I kind of joke around with each other, like Cal and I kind of butt heads on certain things. He always says, "Chris, I will use an AI to change your voice to get you in trouble on YouTube." And I'm like, or if there is something that I say and he goes, "Oh, I'll post that to YouTube," I'm like, I can just say it's an AI now. Like there's too many. It's a defense and an offense, right?
right.
Yeah. I mean,
Right,
obviously we're all joking,
right,
but
and, like, the last story we just talked about, DeWitt could say, "I never made that call, that was an AI.
yeah,
Somebody created that audio, it was never me."
it's a good
And we're
argument.
getting
Yeah.
into that world.
Yeah.
Right, so how do you believe what do you believe? So that's gonna force everybody to come up with some sort of, process to certify that something's valid, now we gotta go to another level, and you gotta add that to the whole process to say, "Okay, this is definitely me on this podcast,"
Yeah.
like the blue check that Twitter used to have, right?
Yeah.
Now you're gonna have to put something in place, and you're gonna have to do it legally, right? Somebody could say, "I didn't sign that contract. That's not my signature. I wasn't there for that meeting. That was all AI, blah, 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 blah."
Right. It's things that you do
N
for
now you're putting a lot of things.
yeah. You're lagging pretty bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know where this is going to go. We're going to hit that gray line pretty soon, I believe. I strongly believe we're going to hit that gray line where we're like, oh no, what do we do here? So, yeah.
Oh, I think we're at it, and I think people were asking that long before this happened. It was only a matter of time before this was gonna happen, and now that we're there, I wanna say and we might have talked about it on the podcast at least a year ago, lawyers saying, "What are we supposed to" "We don't know how to handle this." People
Yeah.
don't understand the legal ramifications of what's gonna happen down the road, when things come into question. Was this really signed by somebody, or is this really the right person? And now you saw it in the entertainment industry where they're saying, is it AI? Is it really the actor who said or did this line, or did they just use Brad Pitt's face and put it
Right.
on an AI?
Put on an AI system. Yeah.
Is that allowed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do the actors own their?
It's going to get interesting in what I wanted to say was a year, but I think it's going to be less than a year from now. We're going to have some serious conversations about what these AIs can do. Because this article talks about how Twitter actually doesn't even allow that stuff, but these bots are getting so good they're able to get around Twitter's guidelines. So,
Right.
yeah, Twitter actually does allow pornography, but there's certain, obviously you can't just post anything. Like there's certain regulations that you have to follow. But these AI bots can get around those regulations. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting. Speaking of,
Well, what's interesting too is
Chip Mom
hold on, I
actually,
just want to say this. What's interesting
absolutely
too is,
kills my transition there. Go ahead.
oh, go ahead.
No. Go ahead. Say what you were going to say, Mom.
No, I was just going to say, to add to that too, is if you start legislating things, right, to
Yeah.
fix the problem, that was the whole point with if you remember, with social media. They don't want to be, they're open platform. They're not going to be legislated, right? You can't, there's Section 230. You can't come in. You can't tell it what to do, what not to do. It's an open forum. People can be allowed. So now even trying to legislate to fix this could be a problem because of the way it's been set up with this section. What was it, 230? And are they an open platform? Can they be, can you impose restrictions on them like you would say a publisher or a pornographic site, et cetera, et cetera. So anyhow, it is a gray area. We'll see where it goes. But
Yeah. Everything for views, Mom. Speaking of views, did you see that? I don't know if you saw this one. This is bizarre. So, what is Hi? Bizarre reason behind comedian Mark Norman being escorted off stage, explored. This went viral, I think, yesterday. So, last night, or what's the day? Yeah, yesterday. So, last night, or maybe 2 nights ago, Mark Norman, who is a hilarious comedian, is doing a show. And actually, so Mom and I will show the video. I'll show you the video real fast. Can you see my screen, Mom? Or are you not watching the screen?
yes.
Okay.
No, I can see it.
Oh, okay. I want to show you this because I want your take on it. It's very weird, and then we'll talk about it.
I can't hear her.
Okay. Well, she basically says cut the cameras and whatever. It's like, so all this, like when you see that, everyone's like, what is going on, right? And turns out this Instagram company called Hi decided that they were going to rent out the space, so the club, while Mark Norman's doing this. So Mark Norman doesn't even know, and they're going to do this for a social media post just because they know that by doing something outlandish, they will get views. And obviously it works because it went viral.
Yeah.
But it's like, hold on. And I'm actually more upset with the club for this than the actual Hi people. Like, they can do what they want, but it's like, why would you have a very big comedian do part of a set that he's working on for his time, whatever, and then you're going to let these people come on stage for a social media clip? Again, this probably helps their numbers, but this kind of goes back to what we talked about last podcast about shit quality social media posts that these people realize they have to do for clicks, right? Why in God's name would you cancel this guy's set midway through for a Instagram company just to get you views, right? Like, if I was a comedian, I would never go back to that club. I'm curious what Mark Norman thinks, but it's like,
you're
it's such
working off the assumption that Mark Norman wasn't involved in it.
He said he wasn't. He did a release today. He said, I had no clue what was going on. So basically, this company that paid overrided Mark Norman's comedy set. It's kind of ridiculous that the club allowed that. So the whole thing was staged. The whole thing, the whole time. So I saw this and I was kind of like, why would you do that to a comedian who's a pretty big comedian?
And there are contract issues. I mean, if that's true, Mark Norman could sue the club.
Yeah, they said he hasn't decided yet.
Yeah, I mean, he could do that because contractually they have to pay him either way. But if there were all sorts of stipulations about, he gets a piece of whatever time he's up there, or if he needs the exposure, I don't know him well enough to know.
No, he's huge.
Whatever.
He's big.
Okay, so if it were to harm him in some way or his reputation, he could go for, damages for that. And it's a risk for the club if they allowed that to happen.
I just thought it was
know
so stupid.
how much money the high people are paying them.
Yeah. So I just thought that was pretty wild. What else do we have?
Yeah.
I think we just have this last one, which is the VR gaming ones, which this, again, goes back to what we were talking about. So the article is 10 VR game trends for 2024, how the market is evolving. So I've said this on stream a couple times now. I've said this, I don't know where else I said it. I feel like I've said it a couple times, but I think this is the year for VR. They're really ramping up what VR is capable of now, which is great. I think I'm going to get the new Quest pretty soon.
They're predicting it will double in size in 2024 to roughly like 42%, by 42%. So I just kind of went through the 10 things because they are pretty much straightforward. VR is cheaper than ever, which is, you probably know that better.
Kind of, yeah. It's kind of, yeah. It's, I wouldn't say, it's a little deceiving. I wouldn't say that the price of VR has gone down or gone. Yeah, I don't think it's gotten cheaper. What I think is you're getting more for your money, if that makes sense. So like you're getting higher quality, like the ability of what VR is capable of doing now for better prices. Because it's still $300 to do. Sometimes even more.
I'm not sure because they mentioned some prices in there, and I think some of the equipment is coming down in price.
Yeah.
Still $100 increase in price. The Meta Quest 2,
Yeah, but for instance, the Meta Quest
are under $100.
Yeah, well, the Meta Quest 3 is already out. So the reason the 2 is cheaper is because it's the last generation. So
right,
that's
but
where
then
it gets
people who never could do VR before, at least now they have access.
That's true.
Be cutting edge technology, but they're getting exposure to it. I think that's their point.
Yeah.
It leads to the metaverse world. I guess it takes you to the next level. It's a lead into the metaverse because you're now moving into more virtual worlds. It's monetized, which people now making money at it, which also increases interest. People want to make money and get involved in it. More mixed reality experiences. Like I said, you're more into that stuff than I am. I can't answer it, but all these things, standalone headsets, VR cloud gaming, better and more engaging VR content, adventure, shooter, simulation genres are most popular, and it's extending beyond gaming. All that sounds good, but you've often said there just aren't many games out there.
Yeah, from a gaming perspective, I think to your point, like we're going to be making a lot more games this year. Like I think the VR space is about to literally explode, which is great. Mm-hmm. The only downside is there has to be a boom. Otherwise, what are you using for except for augmented reality, right? Most of the augmented reality stuff is only limited to what you can do at home, right? You have to be within a certain distance of a computer or maybe a phone. And when you're on a phone, everything scales down. We still haven't figured out how to do scaling properly yet. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say a TV is 1920 by 1080, or a monitor, I should say. When you use these Quests or whatever, it actually scales down the resolution to like 480 something by 6 something. But essentially what it does is it scales everything down so that it looks crisp, but in reality it's just like simplifying it, if that makes sense. Okay. It's kind of like condensed. So now there's higher end VRs, like I believe the new Steam Deck or Steam, I forget what the Steam one's called, the Valve Index. I believe that is 2K monitors in your eyes. So that's really high quality. You can't get that on a phone though. You have to have a huge setup for that. The other thing with VR is, again, the headset is one thing, and we can talk about prices of headsets. If you really want to get to the most immersive level, you're spending around 10 grand in the sense of there's the thing that lets you walk around without actually moving. There's haptic vests. There's new controllers. There's a lot that goes into it besides just the headset. The headset's great, and I think Facebook has done a great job with the Meta Quest 3. Truth be told, I don't want to deal with the metaverse. I hate that to use my Oculus, I have to sign into Facebook. Why does my Facebook have anything to do with the VR games that I play? Like that's something that annoys me, and I know a lot of other YouTubers feel the same way. So again, I understand that it's owned by Facebook and Meta, but I don't need Meta in my face. I haven't opened Facebook in probably about 5 years at least. So yeah. So again, I think if we're talking evolving, I think is a strong word. I think we are making huge advancements in the actual capabilities of what VR can do. but I don't necessarily think that it's evolving in the sense of the real world applications, right? We are able to do more things around the house and maybe in some small areas around the parking lot or whatever. But on the grand scheme of things, I don't think we've made that much of a change or a dent in.
Well, I think
Go ahead.
I think the point of the article is evolving in the sense that it's becoming more uh,
Available.
marketable.
Yeah.
More people are now having access to potentially doing more VR
Yeah.
between pricing, accessibility, interest based on the type of games. I think that's the point. And Facebook, and again, same thing with Apple, same thing with Google. Everybody wants you to be tied to their platform. It's a marketing thing. You have to go to, the Apple App Store. You have to go onto Facebook in order to launch into the metaverse. That's how they funnel you for marketing.
Yeah.
They keep
Yeah,
you
exactly.
attached. If they just let you go out there, all they did was they sold you a product, a headset, and they're done. You walk away.
Yeah.
By forcing you to go through Facebook, watch down the road, they'll start charging you for time on VR on any platform.
Yeah.
They'll find
That's
a
what
way
happens
to make
when,
money.
yeah, they've essentially monopolized your VR experience to a certain extent. So, and what I mean is, it's not that they're monopolizing it now, but to your point, down the road, there is nothing stopping Facebook from basically funneling you to their own like game market or whatever they want to do. Because I think it's just a matter of time before Meta makes its own market besides the Oculus market. I don't know if the Oculus market's actually owned by Facebook. It probably is. But most of the games people get on Steam. They don't go through the Oculus store. So yeah, that's I'm curious how this is gonna. I do think that VR is going to be the next big thing. It's about time after 8 years now, maybe even longer. It's about time that they start focusing on VR because we've only had there's really only like 2 major games that have come off on the VR that were actually like so ahead of its time that it was like, oh my God, this is what VR is going to be. And the only 2, those are, well, technically 3. You have Half-Life, Alex, which was beyond human comprehension at the time, and then Bone Labs and Boneworks. So realistically, there's definitely some fun games on the VR headset, but let's say there's 2 types of people using this. You have the gamers, right? Which are the ones like me who are going to try all the games and decide, oh, this is good or it's not. The other one is the person that wants their life to be more augmented reality. And my question to those people is, how long can you stay in there for before you realize, hey, I have a bulky screen on my face and my eyes are starting to sweat, So I don't think VR is at that level.
Wait a minute. You let people know there were other applications for VR. You could train workers without having to physically put them on the line and have somebody waste time.
Absolutely.
They could go through an entire production using VR. You could learn how to do, surgery.
But then we're talking about companies buying it for the workers. I'm talking about the person that wants to buy it who is not a gamer, but is someone that's into virtual reality or augmented reality. See,
well, but then again, to your point about, say, I want to be a hairstylist.
Sure.
I can do I could buy a virtual reality program like you would buy, I don't know, Babbel to learn a language.
Mm-hmm.
And I watch it and I learn how to cut hair in real time in virtual reality. And I get my licensing that way.
Yeah.
I mean,
again,
I think
there's definitely benefits to it, but I'm talking about the same. Again, I understand that, and that's for a specific use case, but I'm talking about is there anyone out there that actually wants to be in AR 24/7? You know what I mean? I can't believe, the idea is cool.
Last time. Yeah, no, it's not healthy to do that.
Yeah.
It's not.
If you were to give me glasses that did it, then I'd be okay with the AR qualities. But to have a giant bulky headset like this lady's face thing here, which is not even that bulky, but that's not even a real rendition of something. But it's stuff like that I go, oh, we're not there yet. We're not quite at the point where I can say that this is a daily user. Yeah, I could. Okay, so actually, let me take it back a little bit. Ready? It's not that I don't think that there's a use for it. My question is, when is it a day-to-day thing? When is it something that everyone's using 24 hours a day? Is it in glasses? Like, that's what I mean. I don't think it's evolving in that level yet.
There was a movie that was a year or two ago. I can't remember, but Harry Styles was in it, and the pug woman. I can't think of her first name, but as I
Pugman?
recall, it was a couple that was they lived totally in virtual reality. So the story was about their, they lived like this very odd, perfect life, and she was not happy. And as the story evolves, it turns out that they're both with headsets on, living in augmented reality. I can't think
Oh,
of the name
really?
of the movie. It was yeah, that an actress was actually the one who directed it. There was all this scandal. She was dating Harry Styles and
Oh,
something
you're
about
talking, yeah, what's her name? She was in Scrubs. No, not Scrubs, House. Um,
yeah,
Crazy lady.
Olivia somebody.
Olivia Wilde, thank you.
That was
Harry.
yes. So anyhow, I think they did a whole movie about that, and it's almost like the version of the Truman Show, where you're not living in reality. It's a
Yeah.
staged,
It was called
production.
Don't Worry,
Don't worry,
Darling.
darling.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It's a weird movie. I just watched it. I mean, I wasn't.
2 hours
I
and
didn't
2 minutes.
enjoy
God
it.
damn.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you think it's technically supposed to be fiction, but then again, that's what you're saying. It's people who are living, they don't like their lives. They're not happy in their lives. They're depressed. It's a depressing life. So they decide, or he decides for the two of them, they're going to go into this virtual reality and live this great life in this lovely neighborhood where they're both successful, blah, blah, blah. But it's artificial.
There's
And she can't,
a lot of animes are based off this idea, like guy gets into a video game and like he becomes this amazing character in a video game. There's a very famous anime called Sword Art Online, which kind of started this mentality. And the only thing that I'm always thinking, so basically the idea is for Sword Art Online is everyone in the world's kind of like buying this game, and then all of a sudden everyone gets trapped in the game, and the main character basically sacrifices himself to get everyone out of this game. But the whole
okay.
time I'm just thinking like, hey, when do you like take it off to eat? Like there's got to be some point where you come out of the fake world and you have to do stuff, right? Who's paying your rent, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I know
Right.
it's an anime, but it's like it's kind of realistic to talk about now because we are getting somewhat to that point. But I think it was Elon that said like within the next 2 to 3 years we're going to be at that point where you can't tell anymore what's reality and what's virtual reality, which would be cool, but like at the same time, that's
Ask
another.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
She can say that right
Yeah.
now.
So it's like, yeah, we're really getting into dicey territory with all the electronic stuff. We're at kind of a tipping point. So yeah. Well, yeah, I am very excited to see what the VR world brings because VR is going to be sick. I'm still on the original Oculus. I did some VR recordings the other day. So yeah, that's pretty much it, Mom. I don't think we had any real questions. Someone asked a question, but I don't know how to even answer it. It's kind of a silly question.
Well, okay.
So they said, if you were to, okay, I don't even know how to answer this one. If you were forced to live in a world, another planet like Earth, and you had to pick a sea monster that you had to coexist with, which of the following would you pick? The Kraken, the Loch Ness Monster, the Bloop, I don't even know what a Bloop is, the Mosasaurus, or the Leviathan?
I have to live with one of those
You have
things.
to coexist with one. So I think it's saying like if you were, this is how I'm expecting this question. So if I had to live in another world and there was a monster I had to coexist with, which means that, here's my question of coexist. Does that mean that I'm in the same, here, I can stop sharing my screen. Does that mean that you have to live in the same, are they just on the planet with you? Or are you saying I have to live with this thing, like physically live with it?
We've technically lived with the Loch Ness Monster. It doesn't bother me.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's not anywhere. It's not anywhere near us. So of course I'm going to pick a sea animal because I'm never going in the sea. We're too smart for these questions, Mom. God damn. But if you mean one to like, if I had to conquer the world with, I'd probably pick the biggest land monster of all time. I think the Leviathan's a water creature. What's the Bloop? Hold on, I gotta look this thing up.
I don't know what a bloop is.
The Bloop. Oh, it's like, I guess it's based on a. Oh, interesting. So, right, a bloop was. I'm going to read this to you. This is what we think it looks like. It's basically a giant whale with like a huge jaw. It says the bloop was an ultra low frequency, high amplitude underwater sound detected by the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, and they had no idea what it was. They said it was way too big to be a normal animal that we've discovered. So apparently it's known as the loudest sound underwater ever recorded.
Okay, I don't want to live with anything loud. No, thank
Yeah.
you.
So that bad boy's going.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not working with that
Although I
guy.
would hear it coming. That's true.
Yeah, if
If it was
it's taking
in
us
back space,
down.
you hear it coming.
The megalodon
I
is
don't
a
know, but the lock.
shark. You know, in my head, I feel like the Loch Ness monster is like a sweet little animal. You know?
Yeah, I don't know. It says I haven't heard it cause any damage.
Yeah.
It's just out there.
Oh, and then the Mosasaurus was like the original alligator. It had fins and stuff. It's kind of a cross between a dolphin and an alligator.
Yeah, a lot of water-based creatures.
Yeah.
A lot of water-based.
So basically, all you're saying is, what would I pick to not go into the water ever? So I think I'm going with the Loch Ness monster.
Well, I would go with one that's water-bound because
I think
the other
it sounds
things
like
can
they're.
come out of the water and get
Yeah,
me.
it sounds like they're all pretty much water bound. I don't know what we don't really
No,
know
some
what
can
half
come
the
out
thing.
of the water. Like the Loch Ness can't. We don't think it can come out of the water, but that crocodile thing could come out of the water. The
Yeah, well,
shark
it's got
one,
little
I would go with
fins.
that one. It doesn't have the water.
Yeah, but does that mean I can never like get into the water? You know, I don't want to deal with a freaking megalodon. Do you know how big a megalodon is?
Well,
That
that's
mofo is
okay. I don't need
huge.
the ocean.
Yeah.
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 I could go my entire life without swimming. A lot of people do go their whole life with not ever even seeing an ocean, let alone swimming in one.
Yeah. So that's why it's like, yeah, I don't know. If you were forced to live in a world, another planet like Earth. Yeah. So basically, I just need the high ground.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But I had a response. Remember how you asked who would you eat with?
Yeah.
Who would you have your last meal with and whatnot? And you had to be somebody dead and somebody living. And I was thinking about that, and I can't think of any person, but she is living. What I would that'd be interesting. I read a book when I was a kid. I want to say middle school. Don't ask me the name of the book. I don't remember what the whole story was about. But the girl goes back in time and she meets another girl her age. In the course of the story, goes from with the girl's one, it's her mother.
Oh,
And I was thinking
interesting.
about that and I said, but I'd really like to have, if I had to sit and talk with somebody, I'd be curious to talk with your grandmother, my mother, at my age, but when I was younger. Like when I read that book, I thought, wow, that would be really cool. I wonder if I would be friends with my own mother, right? Just
That'd
based
be
on
very awkward.
my personality.
Yeah.
I know, but I just thought that was so interesting because you would think, you never deal with your parent or especially for me with my mother at the same age. Obviously, the parent is always older,
Right.
but I just always thought that would be interesting because I know so much about my mother and her personality. I always thought, oh wow, I always would have liked to have met her when she was younger. A lot of people like that too. Your great grandmother and my granddad, but for my mother, I just always thought, wow, I would wonder what she would be like at my age. So
Right.
that was when I was in middle school, but even in high school with all the stuff my mother used to do and just her personality, her friends. I always wondered sometimes, if you had ask Aunt Sue, would say, "Oh no, I never would have been friends with her."
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then I was like, I wonder if we would be, or at a minimum, I would like to know her. Now she doesn't know she's my mother. You know what I mean? Like just meet
Yeah.
and talk
Right.
to somebody
It's kind
at
of
my
like
age.
remember that silly movie Hot Tub Time Machine where they go back in time and he meets his mom. Do you remember Hot Tub
What was
Time
it called?
Machine? Hot Tub Time Machine. It
Oh,
was
I
with
heard
yeah,
about it. I didn't know.
yeah. It has some funny parts. It's not the best movie, but yeah, it kind of the same concept. But yeah, so
There was one years ago called Peggy Sue Got Married. Um, Nicolas Cage was in it, and what was her name? A famous actress, and she hits her head and travels back in time. She's married to Nick Cage, but they went to high school together. But there's just this one scene where now she's adjusting to the fact that she's a kid or high school again, and she's home and whatnot. And she goes running in the door from school, and the phone's ringing. And she picks it up, and it's her grandmother. And she starts crying because her grandmother obviously had been dead for years. And here she is talking to her grandmother on the phone because she traveled back in time, right? So she has this whole conversation. The grandmother's like, "Why are you crying? What is?" She's like upset with her why she's crying. But in that moment, and the whole point was if you could get on the phone and talk to somebody that you know who died, what would you say to them?
Oh
It's like
yeah.
having a phone to heaven, blah, blah, blah. So she had that moment, and that was kind of neat in that movie. Not that that's the same thing, but I always remember that. Like, what would you do if you? And then she finds it. She talks to her parents and her grandparents, goes to see them, all that stuff. But in that moment, she completely forgot that. Wow, people that I were alive that are no longer alive that I could talk to now that I've gone back in time. But anyhow, I was just thinking about that book, and I said, boy, that was something I remember back then thinking I would really like to meet my mother, or I guess my father too, but my mother especially at that age, and see, would we be friends? Would we get along?
Yeah.
Anyhow, that was my answer to the question.
All
Somebody
right.
living.
Yeah. Well, we just did an hour and 8, Mother. Solid podcast. A lot. We went through a lot tonight. Went by fast. 80 done. So as I said to you in the beginning, I think I'll post it after, but we officially separated the podcast channel from the YouTube channel. So for those of you that want to subscribe to that one, we actually break up clips for those of you that are interested in, or like don't have the time to watch a full podcast, but want kind of like the highlights. That's there. So go check that out. Subscribe to that channel. If you don't really care about that, you can still subscribe to the main channel because that'll still have all the video uploads. So I'm probably going to start uploading the podcast to the new channel, and then it should be on the main channel as well. I'm going to test that one tomorrow. Well, Monday when this comes out. So yeah, other than that, the only things I have to promote was the last podcast. I haven't put out any videos. So I don't think I put out any videos. So besides that, we just have one more speed run for the rest of the month. Then we start Dark Souls 3. I might see if Dad wants to watch that one, see what I do. That's a big one. That's our last Souls game, Mother. That's my last platinum.
Okay.
It has, I did not realize how much work is in this one. I think I have 62 pages of notes. I do more note taking than I did in college. So, yeah, we'll probably have to go through that one.
College trained you for taking notes.
Notes in Dark Souls 3, yeah. So we're going to start that. Hopefully my internet holds up, guys. I'll have to figure something out. I think it might be my modem or whatever, the cheap modem that they give you. I think I just need a new one. I don't know. I'll figure it out. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. So social media down below, promo codes down below, other Discords, or Discord, wait, promo codes, stream links, Discord, and then other links down below. Next week, I think Dave's going to do the podcast, Mom, so you get the day off. And
Who is?
David O'Dwyer, one of our friends, because I haven't done an interview
Okay.
with him yet. Or Cal. Maybe I'll do it with Cal. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So I will see you soon, Mother, and everyone else will see you soon. Good job, Mother. Bye, guys.
Bye.